After being reborn, I deliberately missed every chance to meet Joel. When he returned to the country to teach, I applied to study abroad. When he lived in a school district apartment, I moved back to my parents' home. When he hesitated, I left directly, not leaving him even the slightest chance to regret it. All of this was because, in my previous life, when I was on my deathbed, he said coldly, if there was another life, I should not love him again. Chapter 1. Looking at the offer from the German university in my inbox, I was so excited that tears almost fell. No one knew that I had been reborn to the time before I married Joel. After receiving the offer, I immediately bought my plane ticket. My professor teased me, weren't you crying and making a fuss about marrying Joel no matter what? Why did you apply to study abroad again? At the mention of Joel, his handsome face and indifferent expression unconsciously surfaced in my mind. He was the most popular young professor among the students. In everyone's eyes, I was completely unworthy of him. He had a boundless future ahead of him. I was that pile of cow dung, while he was the fresh flower stuck in cow dung. I laughed self-mockingly, and my tone became firm again. Professor, I've only just graduated. It's too early to get married. I think I should still focus on my studies. The professor looked at me in surprise. After a moment, he nodded with relief. If you can think that way, your parents can finally relax. After leaving the university, I walked along the road home. Chapter 2. In my previous life, Joel was the childhood sweetheart I had secretly loved for 10 years. For the first few years after our marriage, I once thought I was the happiest person in the world. Until 2 years later, when Diana came back, everything changed. That day, I told him that I was pregnant, but what I saw on Joel's face was not joy, but stunned silence. In the depths of winter, he stood on the balcony and smoked all night. The next day, he said his career was currently on the rise, and for now, we could not keep this child. I said I could take care of the baby myself, and besides, after we had been married for so long, both families' parents were looking forward to it. But he only stood up coldly and said he had already made an appointment with the doctor, telling me not to forget to go. His attitude chilled my heart, and the child was aborted. At the hospital entrance, I saw Joel carefully supporting Diana, whose belly was already heavily pregnant. As they walked over, there was a smile on his lips that I had not seen in a very long time. Our eyes met. He calmly looked away, got into the car, and drove straight off. At home, Joel stood on the balcony with his back to me, smoking, in a trembling voice. I questioned him, asking whether the child was his. He shook his head and said the child belonged to Diana's ex-husband. He was only taking care of her because she was pitiful. I did not understand. I had gone through my miscarriage alone. Was I not pitiful? I cried and asked him to promise that he would never see Diana again, but he simply could not do it. He said Diana was pregnant, and there was no way she could be left without someone to care for her. We fell into a long Cold War. After Diana's child was born, she asked me to meet. Her eyes were full of contempt as she said Joel would only love her for his entire life. Even though you married him, didn't he still make you abort your child? She also waved the photo on her phone of Joel holding the baby. Look, the child isn't his, yet he loves it as if it were his own. I walked out of the cafe in a daze. Then I saw Joel with his arm around Diana, his gaze toward me filled with anger. He opened his mouth and questioned me, "Who allowed you to disturb Diana's life?" Those words were like a knife, piercing sharply into my heart. Unable to bear that pain, I rushed over, yanked the two of them apart, and shouted for Diana to explain clearly. Diana trembled as if I had frightened her. "Miss, weren't you the one who asked me out to talk?" Joel shoved me away hard. I staggered 2 steps, fell into the middle of the road, and was struck by a car that had no time to avoid me. When I woke up again, I had lost both legs and could never stand again. My parents-in-law dragged Joel to kneel beside my hospital bed. Joel cried and repented, promising that he would never see Diana again. At first, Joel came every day. Later, only on his days off. Then, once a month. After that, Diana threatened suicide, and the two of them began seeing each other again. But by then, I no longer had the energy to care about them. My life had also reached its end. When I was dying, The two of them came together. Diana wore exquisite makeup and a proper, elegant suit, while I was withered and gaunt, without even the strength to say a single sentence. She smugly pointed at the children playing in the distance and whispered, "They are all his." They were just waiting for me to stop breathing so they could be together openly. She said that even though I had occupied this position for a lifetime. So what? Had Joel not still taken care of her for an entire lifetime? As for my passing, Joel looked relieved, as if a great burden had finally been lifted. In the end, he said coldly, "Lisa, if there is another life, don't love me again." He told me not to love him again, as I thought and thought. A tear slipped down. If I could start over, I would definitely stay far, far away from you. Joel. Chapter 3. As soon as I got home, I received a call from Ryan. "Lisa, I heard from my dad that you're coming to Germany to study." He was the professor's only son, and our friendship had begun back in kindergarten. I had only just said mem. A low, joyful voice of congratulations came from the other end. "Congratulations. Next week is my mom's birthday. I'll go over after celebrating it with her. Get ready to welcome me." "Absolutely," he said in a low voice. Chapter 4. The door lock clicked. Joel walked in, carrying packed dinner. When he saw that I was there, panic flashed through his eyes for an instant. Then Diana followed him in and smiled timidly at me. "Lisa, you're here too?" Only then did I remember that, in my previous life, around this time, Joel had been tutoring Diana every day until midnight. I felt they were getting too close. I told Joel to mind his boundaries, but Joel said I was being too controlling. After that argument, we fell into another Cold War. I moved back to my parents' place. At this moment, we should not have made up yet. Joel's face was full of superiority, as if saying, "See, didn't you come back obediently after all?" He placed the food on the dining table and said flatly, "Have you eaten? Join us." Diana let out an annoyed "Oh no, Joel. We only packed 2 portions. There isn't any for Lisa. What should we do?" She glanced at me, lowering her head as if I had bullied her. "Why don't I go home?" I opened the door cleanly and decisively. "Then I won't see you off. Please take the trash at the door with you too." Diana had never been treated like this before. In the past, even when I did not welcome her, I had never said it to her face. Her eyes instantly reddened. "I know Lisa doesn't like me. I'm sorry for disturbing your life." As she spoke, she covered her mouth and ran out crying. Joel pressed his lips tightly together, his expression displeased. "Why are you picking a fight with a young girl? She's about to take the postgraduate entrance exam. It's only for these few months. Can't you tolerate even that?" But when he caught sight of my cold, silent expression, he only opened his mouth awkwardly and ultimately said nothing more. Chapter 5. After dinner, I silently cleaned up the dining table. He sat on the sofa, anxiously switching TV channels nonstop. As soon as I returned to my room, he abruptly stood up and threw down one sentence. "I'm going out to throw away the trash." Then he hurried off. I knew he must have gone to find Diana. Seeing her leave in tears, he could not feel at ease. If this had been my previous life, I would have made a scene and refused to let him go out. But now, wherever he wanted to go was his business. I would no longer ask. I did not respond and turned off the TV on my own. This house belonged to Joel because it was close to the university. When he went abroad to study, his mother let me live here. But now, it was no longer appropriate for me to stay. I sorted through my things, throwing away what I no longer needed. The rest I divided into 2 categories. Some I would take back home, while the things I needed for now would be brought abroad with me directly. I packed until midnight before Joel returned. The bedroom door was not closed, and he stopped outside. "Lisa, it's the middle of the night. What are you packing?" Without raising my head, I was pressing clothes into the suitcase. "Is something wrong? Are you going on a trip?" His tone was hesitant. "Something like that. I'm going to Germany to see Ryan." I stood up, stretched my waist, and glanced at him. Hearing that name, displeasure appeared on his face. He and Ryan had never gotten along since childhood. I noticed that the collar of his shirt was crooked, and there was a faint rose fragrance on him. It was Diana's scent. "Don't spend too much time with that guy. Halfway through his sentence, he stopped, his brows furrowed. I followed his gaze. In the trash can lay the wedding dress design drafts I had thrown away. I studied fashion design. I'm not satisfied with them, I said perfunctorily, but he bent down, picked up that sheet of paper, and brushed the dust off it. Even then, you don't have to throw it away. There's still time. He did not know that this version was already the final draft. I had already told the tailor not to make it. I'll keep it for now. Maybe you'll want it later. Do whatever you like. I asked him to leave, closed the door, and went to sleep. Chapter 6. The next day, I woke up late. When I walked out of the bedroom, I unexpectedly found Joel at home, unusually enough, and he had even made breakfast. We finished eating in silence. He suddenly said, "Next Friday, shall we go get our marriage certificate?" My hands paused as I was clearing the dishes. In my previous life, that was the exact date when we got our marriage certificate. But I was leaving next week, and I did not want anything unexpected to happen before I left. So I said, "Today I'm going back to the village to see Grandma." She said she was asking someone to pick an auspicious date. I'll ask her first before deciding. He froze slightly and looked up at me. Only after seeing that my expression was normal did he slowly nod. "Then just tell me once you decide." He leaned against the kitchen doorframe and quietly watched me wash the dishes. "I don't have class this morning. I'll drive you there, and I can visit Grandma too." I froze and instinctively wanted to refuse. This trip back was specifically to tell Grandma about calling off the engagement. How could he go with me? Just then, Joel's phone suddenly rang, and a tearful voice came through the receiver. His expression tightened. He grabbed his coat, put it on, and slammed the door behind him as he left. I secretly let out a breath of relief. I threw out the trash and took my suitcase home. My mother watched me carry boxes into the house trip after trip, worry rising in her eyes. "Lisa, didn't you go back to stay there yesterday because you'd made up? Did you two argue again?" I wrapped my arms around her and collapsed onto the sofa. "No, the closet over there just couldn't fit everything anymore, so I brought some things back." She clearly did not believe me and still looked grave. After Joel came back to the country, Mom has always felt that he's been acting strange. "He doesn't seem as good to you as he was when you were little. Do you feel it yourself?" Her intuition was truly sharp. In my previous life, she seemed to have said something similar too. But back then, I was completely blinded by love and could not bear to hear anyone say even one bad thing about Joel. I quickly acted spoiled and changed the subject. "What are we having for lunch?" "Oh right. I'm going back to the village this afternoon to see Grandma. What should I bring?" As soon as Mom heard I was going back to the village, she hurried off to pack things. Chapter 7. In my previous life, I had once been a left-behind child for a period of time. My maternal grandmother favored boys over girls and often could not even be bothered to make sure I had food. During that time, I relied entirely on Joel's grandmother's care. It was precisely because of this that my parents had always been grateful to her. In truth, for this marriage, as long as I could persuade Grandma, and then have her step forward to smooth things over, the elders of both families would naturally be much easier to deal with. Chapter 8. The village was the same as before, except there were fewer young people now, so it felt much quieter than it used to. Grandma sat on a small stool, picking string beans, while I squatted beside her. After listening to me talk about calling off the engagement, she kept sighing. "Lisa, have you really thought it through? If you still like that boy and want to marry him, Grandma will go back with you tomorrow and stand up for you." I knew Grandma truly cared about me, but I still silently shook my head. "All right," she sighed deeply. "You just focus on studying abroad. Grandma will talk to them about the rest." At first, I had only planned to stay for one night, but then I thought that once I went abroad, it would be a long time before I came back, and I would not know when that would be. So one night turned into a whole week. When I returned to the city, Grandma stuffed my bag full of my favorite pickled vegetables and dried meat. In the car, I opened my backpack and took out a white jade bracelet wrapped in red silk. It was something I had asked Grandma to help me buy back this time. A birthday gift for my mother. This bracelet had been a keepsake from my maternal grandmother. Because of me, my mother had fallen out with her mother. During their argument, she had returned the bracelet. After my maternal grandmother passed away, the bracelet was sold by my uncle. Over the years, my mother often mentioned it. I had memories from my previous life, so I knew who had it and bought it back for my mother in advance. Then I saw a roll of money in the inner pocket, some in small bills and some in larger ones, totaling 500 yuan. At a glance, I knew it was the money Grandma had saved from selling eggs. When I left, she even said that even if I could not be her granddaughter-in-law, I was still her granddaughter. Thinking of that, my eyes grew hot. Whether in my previous life or now, Grandma had always treated me very well. Chapter 9. When I was 5, after my maternal aunt-in-law gave birth to a baby boy, my maternal grandmother often forgot that I needed to eat too. Once, I was so hungry that I could not stand it anymore and picked a fruit by the roadside that looked very fragrant. The moment it entered my mouth, a teenage boy raised his hand and knocked it away. With a stern face, Joel said I was courting death. I cried and whined that I was hungry, so he brought me home and asked Grandma to cook for me. From that day on, whenever I could not get enough to eat, I would run to Grandma's place. At first, Joel thought I was troublesome. Later, he would also take me to catch fish in the river and cut grass in the mountains. Even now, when I thought back on it, I still felt that it was the happiest period of my childhood. Later, my parents brought me back to the city to attend school. Every winter and summer break, I looked forward to going to see Grandma and Joel. My parents had always been grateful for the care I received back then, and the two families had a good relationship. Over the years, when Joel studied abroad, graduated, and looked for work, my parents helped as much as they could. It was only in my previous life, when I cried and made a scene insisting on marrying Joel, that everything changed. Perhaps my parents felt they owed me for my childhood, and that was why they spoiled me so much. For my sake, they went to beg Grandma as she lay in her hospital bed. I did not know how Grandma persuaded Joel. Joel agreed to the marriage, but later, from his mouth, it turned into my parents using Grandma's surgery as leverage to force him to marry me. Everyone knew that from the moment they learned Grandma was seriously ill and needed surgery. My parents had already taken the initiative to use their connections and invite the best chief surgeon. Just to go to Haicheng, they made 2 trips back and forth, not to mention all the dinners and favors. My father, who could not drink, drank with Joel's father until he ended up in the hospital. All of this happened before the marriage was even discussed. That was not a threat. It was my parents' sincerity. In my previous life, even after the car accident, I had still hoped that he would truly change his mind. Sigh. Fortunately, I had been reborn. In this life, we had not registered our marriage yet. Everything was still in time. Chapter 10. After returning to the city, I put away my luggage and placed Grandma's pickled vegetables in the refrigerator. Then I hurried to the photo studio to pick up the artistic portraits my mother had taken. Who would have thought Joel would be there too? Smiling as he looked at Diana. Diana was wearing a white dress that looked very familiar. It was the very one I had worn when Joel and I took our wedding photos. At that moment, she was standing in front of the mirror, twisting left and right as she posed, directing Joel to take photos of her. Anyone who did not know better would have thought they were the newlyweds. I looked at them in surprise and froze where I stood. In my previous life, I really had never encountered this incident. The staff member saw me first, her expression both shocked and eager for gossip. "Miss Lisa?" Joel looked over, his expression somewhat uncomfortable. "Lisa, why didn't you tell me you were back?" These past few days, I had been in the countryside, and Joel had not made a single phone call. "Oh," I responded flatly. "This." Joel opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Diana walked over in the wedding dress, a flash of smugness passing across her face. "Lisa, please don't blame Joel. I was the one who insisted on trying it on. I only thought the wedding dress was beautiful." And he softened his heart. As she spoke, she hid behind Joel, as if I would hit her. Already acting wronged before I had done anything, Joel was a little embarrassed. "Lisa, Diana is young. She just thought the wedding dress was pretty and wanted to try it on. Be more generous. Don't fuss over a young girl." I spoke calmly. A photo studio opens its doors for business. Any customer can try things on, even if you too want to take a set of wedding photos. As long as the studio agrees, I don't care. Do whatever you like. I did not spare the two of them another glance and walked straight to the front desk. After picking up my mother's photos, I left. I truly did not want to look at them for even one more second. Chapter 11. After leaving the mall, I immediately rushed to cancel the wedding banquet venue I had booked. As soon as I walked out of the hotel, I received a WeChat message from Ryan. It was a photo. Before I had time to tap it open, I was bombarded with voice messages. Who is that woman beside Joel? Isn't he your fiancé? He's being so intimate with another woman. Does he have a death wish? I asked him where he had seen the photo. He mumbled that it was on his dad's Moments. The professor had just posted a 9-grid photo set, and in several of the backgrounds, Joel and Diana could be seen. The two of them were standing very close, surrounded by an ambiguous atmosphere. Anyone could tell at a glance that their relationship was not ordinary. Only then did I suddenly remember that, in my previous life, Ryan had also reminded me bluntly. Back then, I seemed to have scolded Ryan harshly for being nosy. No matter how he apologized afterward, I ignored him. Gradually, our relationship faded. A sour ache rose in my heart. I had wronged Ryan. Once I went to Germany, I would definitely make up properly for what I owed him in my previous life. Thinking of this, I suddenly froze. My parents had always had a good relationship with the professor. There was a high chance they had also seen that post. Could it be that in my previous life, my parents had already known? Chapter 12. With suspicion in my heart, I opened the door. I discovered that my father, who should have been on a business trip, was actually at home. When they saw me, both my parents froze. My mother reacted quickly, forcing a calm smile onto her face. Lisa, aren't you staying at Joel's place today? She carefully glanced at my expression. They must have just found out. My heart ached. My father's face was also full of a fake smile. I closed the door and confessed frankly. I know everything. You don't have to hide it from me. My mother's eyes instantly reddened, and anger appeared on my father's face. In my previous life, because I had misjudged people so badly, my parents worried about me for an entire lifetime. I told them about studying abroad, and I also told them about calling off the engagement. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry, my father said with relief. If Joel is already this unreliable before marriage, leaving him is a good thing. In the end, we agreed that I did not need to show up for this matter. They would go talk to Joel's family, and I only needed to prepare for studying abroad with peace of mind. When I woke up the next day, my mother had started worrying again about the things I needed to prepare for studying abroad. Early in the morning, I heard her calling Ryan. While they were chatting, I went to Joel's place to get my backpack. Yesterday, when I put away the pickled vegetables, I had forgotten to bring my luggage back. Chapter 13. Last night, after Joel realized I had not gone home, he called me several times. I did not answer any of them. He then sent messages explaining that he and Diana were only friends and that they had not done anything inappropriate. What counts as inappropriate? Stop using friendship as an excuse. Are you really as open and honest with Diana as you claim? After sending that, I turned off my phone and went to sleep. When I woke up this morning, I saw the message he had sent. He had a clear conscience. What a clear conscience. In my previous life, I hesitated again and again, only to hurt both others and myself in the end. In this life, I had to remain firm and leave as soon as possible. Chapter 14. I pushed the door open. At a glance, I saw Diana standing in the living room, wearing a revealing nightgown and talking on the phone. When she saw that it was me, she froze. She hung up, and a complicated look of contempt and embarrassed anger flashed in her eyes. The house was very quiet. Joel was not there. I only glanced at her once, said nothing, slammed the door shut, and walked into my bedroom. There was a faint scent of rose perfume in the room, and the blanket had been opened too. Diana had slept here last night. A burst of anger rose in my chest, only to be instantly extinguished by reason. I had already decided to leave. There was no need. Not seeing my backpack, I turned and went to the living room. Where's my bag? Diana pointed behind the sofa. I quickly took it out and felt inside. I discovered that the red silk in the inner pocket was gone. Joel never touched my things. My voice turned cold. Did you go through my bag? She smiled and raised her hand. Are you looking for this bracelet? She had actually taken it without asking. How could someone be so shameless? The anger I had just suppressed flared up again with a whoosh. "Give it back to me," she asked slowly. "You want it back? What do you mean?" I stared at her. The usual weakness on her face was gone, and without her usual disguise, her true self was revealed. "His grandmother gave this to you, didn't she?" She raised her hand, took off the bracelet, and weighed it in her palm. I sensed something was wrong and reached out to snatch it. Unexpectedly, she lifted the end of her brow and lightly turned her palm over. I threw myself forward to catch it. The bracelet collided with the hard tile floor and shattered into several pieces. I knelt on the ground, stunned. My mind went completely blank. In my previous life, my mother had bought the bracelet back herself 2 years later. I had only wanted to give her a surprise, yet I had ended up ruining everything. I raised my head. Diana's face carried the same smile she had worn at my bedside in my previous life. Undisguised malice and mockery written all over it. "You think he'll marry you? Ha! The one he loves is me. It will only ever be me for his entire life. Even if you use your family background to pressure him. Even if he marries you. So what? That will only be temporary. Look at who he has always chosen between you and me. If I shed even one tear, his heart aches so badly for me." Everything she said was true. I had nothing to say. It only made the me who had insisted until the very end in my previous life seem so ridiculous. With a trembling hand, I pointed toward the door and said coldly, "Get out!" But she sat down on the sofa with leisure and composure. "Don't even talk about how you have no right to drive me away now. Even after you get married, you still won't be able to beat me. If I want to live here, I'll live here. I can even sleep in your room." She laughed. "You're really both foolish and stupid." I did not let her continue. I lunged at her and started fighting with her. Unexpectedly, I could not beat her. After she slapped me twice in a row, I exploded. The anger accumulated over 2 lifetimes turned into strength. After a round of grappling and crashing, the room was left in complete chaos. A few minutes later, she crouched on the floor with her head in her arms. "Joel, we'll be back soon. If you don't stop." "Ah." I kicked her angrily. She wailed. "Spare me. I was wrong." I carefully gathered the shattered bracelet, slung my backpack over my shoulder, slammed the door, and left. I really am a fucking idiot. At that moment, I was in such a sorry state that I did not dare go home. I found a hotel and stayed there first. The bracelet had shattered into pieces. I asked several people in a row, and they all said it could not be repaired. Chapter 15. Before I knew it, the sky outside had gone dark. My mother called and asked where I was. I said I was staying at a classmate's place for one night. "Which classmate? Does Mom know them?" She paused for a moment, and her tone became even gentler. "My eyelid has been twitching badly. Can you video call Mom for a moment?" At that moment, my cheeks were swollen high, and there was also a scrape at the corner of my eyebrow. I truly did not want to worry them. "My classmate is in Shanqing. I'll only stay one night and go back tomorrow." On the other end, she seemed to want to say something but held back. I deliberately laughed in a relaxed way. "Actually, there was a little trouble with the birthday gift I prepared for you. I'm waiting for the new gift now." Ha ha ha. The call ended. That very night, I ordered a cashmere scarf and arranged to pick it up the next morning. In my previous life, after the wedding, we did have 2 peaceful years, because Diana failed the postgraduate entrance exam and went abroad to study. Now that I thought about it, where did she get the money? Joel probably sponsored her, but none of that mattered anymore. Tomorrow, I would celebrate Mom's birthday with her. The day after tomorrow, I would fly to Germany. I would stay away from all of this. Far, far away. Chapter 16. I applied anti-inflammatory ointment to both cheeks, hoping the swelling would go down by tomorrow morning so I could hide it from my parents. Just after turning off the lights and lying down on the bed, there was a knock on the door. "Lisa, are you there?" It was Joel. I did not move. "I know you're inside. I searched so many places before I finally found you. Can we talk? I'm really worried about you like this. Diana told me you two argued, and you even got into a fight." Seeing that I did not respond, he continued speaking. She studied until very late last night. There was a classmate's birthday party at the rental place, and it was a bit noisy, so I let her stay for one night. I thought that since you're both girls, it would be better to let her sleep in your room. I had class in the morning, so I wasn't home. If I had been home, things would have been better. He rambled on, endlessly. It was as if he would not leave unless I opened the door and sent him away, afraid that this would end up becoming public news. I opened the door, leaning against the wall. My heart was unexpectedly calm. You have 10 minutes. I need to rest properly. Tomorrow is my mom's birthday, and I don't want her to know about what happened today. Joel's face was full of guilt as he took a step closer. Lisa, I know you've always misunderstood Diana and have intense emotions toward her. He wanted to hold my hand. I dodged and let out a scoff. His brows furrowed, and his words became even gentler. Lisa, I don't feel at ease with you staying alone in a hotel. Come home with me, okay? That isn't my home, I said coldly. Did Diana tell you that she broke my bracelet? Joel nodded, then shook his head with a sigh. She didn't do it on purpose. Her hand slipped. She asked me to tell you she's sorry. She was supposed to come with me, but she fell and injured her leg on the way. She bled a lot, so now she can only wait for you at home. I truly laughed from speechlessness. So you still believe whatever she says? Do you know she went through my backpack? That bracelet was deliberately smashed by her. When I told her to get out, guess what she said? She said I had no right to make her leave. Ha! I stared into his eyes and laughed softly. Oh right. She also said that even if we got married, I still wouldn't be able to beat her. Joel froze. It took him a long while to come back to himself. Then he shook his head firmly. Impossible. Diana couldn't possibly say something like that. He did not believe me. I had known that long ago. Similar scenes had already happened countless times. I said word by word, you could have refused. In my previous life, and in this life too, all my crying and fussing had been in front of my parents. I had never dared to make a scene in front of him. Joel had never once said he was unwilling. He had always been polite. His attitude ambiguous, giving me hope, yet keeping me near and far at the same time. Until after marriage, when Diana returned from studying abroad, and everything changed. Was it because he no longer needed my father's connections by then, or because he could finally rely on himself? I had never dared to think that way. I spoke calmly. Let's forget about the marriage. His face instantly showed a hint of panic. Lisa, I promised I would take responsibility for you. I will definitely fulfill the engagement. I remained silent and insisted, but he said firmly, I'll handle my relationship with Diana properly. I sneered, mocking him. Can you handle it properly? When I didn't want you to tutor Diana, you gave me the cold shoulder. You clearly could have found her a private tutor. There were countless proper ways to handle it, but you chose the one that hurt me the most. You let her wear the wedding dress I had worn and took photos of her. You say you're only friends, but what you do are things only couples would do. You even let her enter your home and sleep in the room I used to live in. When I told her to get out, the contempt in her expression made it seem as if I was the unnecessary one. Who gave her that confidence? You did. You made her feel so justified, as if I was the one who stole her man. How ridiculous. The ones with an engagement are us, aren't we? Out of gratitude for Grandma, I had always been unwilling to go too far. I only wanted to leave far away from this shameless couple. But he kept jumping in front of me again and again, forcing me to speak everything I had held back. His expression became even more panicked. No, Lisa, I have never thought of marrying Diana. My wife will only be you. Lock the door and rest well. I'll come pick you up tomorrow morning, and we'll celebrate Auntie's birthday together. As if afraid that I would say anything more, he fled. I thought I would suffer from insomnia, but unexpectedly, I fell asleep very quickly. Chapter 17. I did not know how much time had passed when I felt someone touching my face. My eyes snapped open. It was Mom. My parents looked at my face with heartache, unable to withstand their gazes. I confessed about the conflict that had happened during the day. The bracelet broke. If Mom had known you would get beaten because of that bracelet, Mom would rather not have it. She touched my face with distress. My father could no longer hold back and called the police. Although the bracelet was not especially valuable, I had still spent 30,000 yuan to buy it back. Chapter 18. On my mother's birthday, our whole family was at the police station. Diana flatly denied it, saying that I had smashed the bracelet myself in anger. Although her fingerprints were on the bracelet, that did not count as evidence. She admitted to slapping my face, but claimed that it was because I had pushed her too far. She also insisted that the injury on her leg had been caused by me pushing her. Both sides stuck to their own stories, and neither had evidence. The police suggested mediation. I thought that today was Mom's birthday, and I was leaving tomorrow, so I did not want to waste any more time. Actually, there was surveillance footage, but the person who came to pick Diana up was Joel, the very man who had promised he would handle their relationship properly. The video was on Joel's phone. I knew he would definitely not take it out. He had probably already deleted it. Diana limped as Joel helped her into the car. Then he turned around, looking as if he had made a mistake. Uncle, Auntie, because of me, Lisa got jealous and something like this happened. I'm truly sorry. My father questioned him. We only look at the facts. What do you mean by bailing that woman out? My mother sneered. She was the one who hit Lisa. Do you know that? My father roared. Do you still remember that you're Lisa's fiancé? Joel bowed deeply and sincerely admitted his mistake. I'm sorry. I'll handle everything properly. I want to talk to Lisa alone. My father was tightly held back by my mother, his face livid as he walked away. Only the two of us were left. I raised my eyes to Joel and said flatly, the moment Diana is involved, even a university professor like you loses all sense of right and wrong. He frowned, his tone very soft, as if troubled. Lisa, I know it was wrong of me to help Diana, but she's very pitiful. You have parents who love you, but she only has a mother in poor health. If she gets a criminal record because of this, her life will be ruined. She still has to take the postgraduate entrance exam. Lisa, for my sake, forgive her. I'll compensate you the 30,000 yuan on her behalf. All right? I quietly looked at him for a long time, then smiled. All right, transfer it over. As soon as I said that, surprise appeared on his face, as if he could not believe I would actually take his money. He asked again, what? Transfer the money over. His brows furrowed tightly. After receiving the money, I spoke calmly. We'll forget about the bracelet, but we can't just let it go that she slapped me twice. Can we? You clearly know that the injury on her leg wasn't caused by me. He suddenly raised his head and looked at me, hesitation in his eyes. I smiled. I didn't sleep well last night, and I don't have much strength. Since you're still my fiancé, please help me slap her back. His brows knitted tightly as he looked at me in confusion. After you slap her, I'll forgive you for taking her side this time. He froze for a very long time, as if unable to believe I would make such a demand. You, of course. My words were the same as his, just listen to them. Don't take them seriously. I simply wanted Diana to feel it too, when faced with love and self-interest. What did this man truly care about? He stared at me in disbelief for a long time. I smiled and nodded, silently watching him. He opened his mouth, and only after a long while did he ask, are you serious? I brushed my hair aside and showed him the finger marks on my face. He struggled for a while. All right. Chapter 19. I smiled, walked past him, and opened the car door on the side where Diana was sitting. Please. Diana's face was full of contempt, as if she was certain Joel would never be able to do it. I pointed at my own face. Please use some force. Make sure to leave the same 5 finger marks. Joel looked at Diana with difficulty, guilt showing on his face. Diana, I'll do it lightly. Diana's eyes widened, as if she could not believe it. Joel, don't let her manipulate you. She looked like she was about to cry. You can't do it lightly. Use force. I reminded him. Diana suddenly turned her head and glared fiercely at me. I waited in silence. Joel raised his hand. When he slapped her, his eyes were tightly shut, as if by not looking, the person hitting her would not be him. Slap. Once. Slap. Again. Her face instantly swelled. And finally, she began to cry in grievance. This time, she was truly crying. Joel comforted her with heartache. I did not listen any further and turned to leave. But Joel spoke. "Lisa, I'll take Diana home first. Then I'll go apologize to Uncle and Auntie. Please say a few good words for me." I sneered, truly unable to understand how Joel's mind worked. Perhaps my countless compromises had given him confidence. "Joel, we're over." He paused for quite a while. When I had already walked far away, he still shouted urgently, "Lisa, tell me the date you and Grandma agreed on. I'll go register our marriage with you right away." As soon as those words came out, even Diana stopped crying. I said nothing. Even Diana could tell that Joel and I had completely fallen out. But she probably had not expected that Joel still thought I would forgive him and refuse to marry anyone but him. I only waved my hand, got into the car, and left with my parents. Chapter 20. Because no one had slept well last night, our family of 3 went home first to catch up on sleep. As soon as we got home, Joel sent me a message. He asked if I had arrived home. Seeing that I did not reply, he said he would come tomorrow to apologize to my parents. I still did not respond. Instead, I directly blocked him. After thinking about it, I blocked him on every possible contact method. Now my parents and Grandma had all agreed to call off the engagement. Only Joel's parents still did not know. But honestly, they did not care who their daughter-in-law was, as long as she could have children. When I woke up, my parents had already prepared a table full of dishes and were waiting for me. In perfect tacit understanding, none of us mentioned the unpleasant things. We lit the candles and sang the birthday song. Mom made a wish and blew out the candles. Together, we had a warm dinner. Chapter 21. At dawn the next day, Mom and Dad appeared at the airport with their suitcases at the same time as me. They were actually going to Europe for their honeymoon. Their boarding time was just a little later than mine. With my parents seeing me off, the plane carried me toward an unfamiliar Germany. Only when I was completely alone did I truly realize that I had walked out of the fate of my previous life. I also remembered that when I was dying, Joel had said that if I could start over, I should not love him again. I had done it. In this life, I had stayed far, far away. I had taken 2 slaps and ruined Mom's birthday. But compared to the price I paid in my previous life, all of this was worth it. My parents were healthy. They did not have to suffer the pain of burying their own child. I had left the scumbag who did not love me and gained a future worth looking forward to. Chapter 22. The plane landed. Ryan stood before me, tall and slender, no longer looking like the boy in my memory. When he left, he had clearly only been as tall as me. How had he become so elegant and charming now? He warmly gave me a hug. After picking me up, he did not leave right away. Instead, he mysteriously said he had a surprise for me. An hour later, my parents appeared at the German airport with their suitcases, giving me a huge surprise. I had thought that I would go through a difficult period of studying alone in a foreign country. Unexpectedly, not only did I have a childhood friend here, I also had my parents who loved me. Ryan had already settled everything. A week later, my parents were safely sent onto their flight back home. There was still some time before school started, so I first went to a language school to study German. Life in a foreign country, along with tense and busy studies, left me no time to think about life back home. I completely forgot about Joel. Before school started, Ryan took me around to experience Germany. I refused again and again, and his patience nearly ran out. He said that when he saw me, I was in a terrible state. Not only was I so thin that a gust of wind could have blown me over, but the dark circles under my eyes clearly showed that I had suffered a serious heartbreak. I emphasized to him countless times that back home, thinness was considered beautiful, and my weight of 98 gene was normal and healthy. But I had no idea what Mom had told Ryan. In his eyes, I was a heartbroken girl who had suffered severe emotional trauma, had self-destructive tendencies, and needed to be carefully protected. There was nothing I could do to coax him. I gave myself a break and followed him around for a few wild days. It really did feel refreshing. That evening, we bought beer, vegetables, and meat, then wandered down the road, preparing to make hot pot. Unexpectedly, we saw Joel downstairs. Ryan narrowed his eyes at me sideways, asking what I wanted to do. I pushed him and told him to go upstairs first. Joel looked extremely haggard, but his suit was still perfectly straight. "Lisa, I really didn't know you cared so much about Diana." Grandma and my parents all scolded me. I know I was wrong. Uncle and Auntie wouldn't open the door for me. It took me a lot of effort to find out your address. His words went in one ear and out the other. My heart was thinking about the hot pot upstairs. Ryan had been spoiled into someone who knew nothing about housework. If he handled the hot pot, I was worried he would burn the apartment down. So I said impatiently, "Get to the point." He lowered his eyes and stared at me tightly, as if trying to find something there. "I don't agree to cancel the engagement. I know now that you don't like Diana. I've already made things clear with her. I won't tutor her anymore." I waved my hand helplessly. "Do whatever you want. I don't care. Please don't break up with Diana because of me. Listen to me finish. Lisa, I've already told my parents that I'll come to Germany to be with you. My contract with the university still has half a semester left. I'll come over at the end of the year to accompany you." After saying that, he looked at me expectantly, as if waiting to see a miracle, but I disappointed him. "Everything is over. Joel, please don't come and pester me anymore." I did not listen to anything else he said and turned to go upstairs. When I pushed the door open, Ryan hurriedly turned away from the window. He accidentally kicked over a chair. Then, somehow, he pulled the entire tablecloth down. All the food on the table fell to the floor. Some shattered, some spilled, leaving the place in complete chaos. Ryan carefully watched my expression. Then I angrily kicked him out. It was simply a waste of food. But not long after, the door was knocked on again. He had brought several friends with him, and everyone cleaned up together, in front of his friends. I could not keep a cold face, so I could only force a smile. As I kept pretending, Joel's matter was thrown to the back of my mind. Everyone lively ate hot pot together. A few days later, the dorm supervisor handed me a letter. It was from Joel. In the letter, he promised that he would definitely come at the end of the year and told me to wait for him. He also told me to be careful of Ryan, saying that Ryan had beaten him. I only found it funny and went to confront Ryan. Ryan refused to admit it. The dorm auntie saw everything. I bluffed. The refined, handsome man looked furious and kicked the pebble by his foot. "If he dares come look for you again, I'll beat him so badly his own parents won't recognize him. I just hate that serious-looking face of his. One look and you know he's no good." I only laughed quietly. I wondered how, in my previous life, I had managed to lose such a good friend. Chapter 23. At the end of the year, Joel indeed did not come. I heard from my parents that he and Diana had gotten married. It was expected. How could those two possibly separate? They were a match made in heaven. They should be locked together for life. They should not come out and harm anyone else. Chapter 24. During Christmas of the second year, I returned home to visit my family. One day, after coming back from a gathering, I had just gotten out of the car when I saw Joel, who had gained weight, squatting downstairs. In my previous life, he had never been this fat. He had always kept himself in good shape. He was drunk, and with no sense of propriety. He came up and grabbed my hand. I felt somewhat disgusted by the smell on him, the pungent perfume mixed with the heavy stench of alcohol. After finally shaking him off, I was just about to leave. Unexpectedly, he covered his face and began to cry, sobbing. I was so frightened that I ran into the stairwell like mad. Seeing me still shaken, my parents asked what had happened. I said I had seen a drunk Joel downstairs. Mom sighed for a while. She said Diana, heavily pregnant, had gone to the university to make a scene, pulling up a banner that said Joel had seduced her and abandoned her, that he was unworthy of being a teacher. Joel had no choice but to play the role of the devoted lover in front of everyone, saying that after Diana became pregnant, she had fallen into depression and often became paranoid. Joel's parents only wanted a grandchild. Under the pressure of public opinion and his parents, Joel registered the marriage with her. The incident was too disgraceful, so they did not hold a wedding. They quietly took a trip as a substitute for the ceremony. I heard that on the second day of the trip, Joel came back first by himself and left his pregnant bride on the road. Now the child had already been born. We even sent them 200 yuan as a gift. I was shocked. "How are you so generous?" Mom smiled. "Isn't this to thank them for the grace of not marrying you?" I could not help laughing and shook my head. That day, after dinner, I helped Dad walk his newly adopted golden retriever to aid digestion. By the flower bed, I ran into Diana holding a child. At first, I thought I was seeing things. She looked haggard, completely different from the way she had confidently held her child in my previous life. At that moment, her eyes were full of resentment. The golden retriever seemed to sense the malice and bared its teeth in warning. I pulled it backward, afraid she would try to blame me for something. Diana pointed at me, her face twisted. You must be very pleased with yourself. Joel only thinks about you now. I said nothing. I only wanted to walk around her, struggling to pull back the golden retriever that would rush forward the moment I let go. Coincidentally, Joel also arrived. Who let you come out and embarrass yourself? Who let you bother Lisa? Come home with me. Diana pointed at Joel and started cursing him, shouting loudly, "Everyone, come look! This is the man who has food in his bowl but still eyes the pot. He has a wife at home. Yet not only does he keep thinking about his former fiancée, he's also involved with female students at school." While Joel attracted the firepower, I hurriedly slipped back home. As soon as I entered, I saw my parents once again leaning by the window, happily watching the drama unfold. When they saw me, they gave me a look that clearly said, "Your taste was really terrible. But fortunately, you found your way back." I was silently speechless. I went back to my room, packed my luggage, and fled back to Germany. Before I went abroad, my parents repeatedly emphasized that dating was fine, but I could not settle overseas permanently. I promised that I would definitely return after completing my studies and serve my country. Only then did they feel relieved. Chapter 25. After graduating with my master's degree, I continued on to pursue a PhD. Over the past few years, Ryan would confess to me every so often. He never felt embarrassed by being rejected and always persisted with unwavering determination. That day, after I came out of the studio, I saw him again, down on one knee, holding a bouquet of red roses. His gaze was warm as he looked at me with a smile. "Lisa, you're about to graduate again. Shouldn't you finally make some time and give me a chance?" His tone was slow and gentle. "If I keep waiting, I'm going to get old." The classmates watching nearby started cheering and teasing. "Ryan, how can you be so shameless?" He was already used to it, his skin as thick as a city wall. "It's fine. I just want all of you to know that anyone less outstanding than me shouldn't even think about pursuing Lisa. I've been waiting in line for years. I still was not used to occasions like this, so I took the flowers and quickly walked out of the crowd." He followed behind me at an unhurried pace. "You haven't given me an answer yet, and you're running away again. How have you considered it?" "Considered what?" "Marrying me." I glanced sideways at him. Ryan had always been thick-skinned, but at that moment, the tips of his ears were so red they looked ready to drip blood. "I know you've been hurt in love before, but you can't spend your whole life alone. Can you? There's nothing wrong with being alone. Not getting married is fine too. Just don't walk so fast." "Yesterday I had a dream. In the dream, you married Joel. That huge scumbag really is like a ghost that refuses to leave. I'm so afraid you'll go back home and get deceived by him again." Over the past few years, Joel really had been like a ghost that refused to leave. Every so often, he would send letters. I had blocked all his contact information, so he used the most primitive method to disgust me. Although I never read the letters and always threw them away, they became the source of Ryan's unease. At that moment, his face was pale. "I'm serious. Lisa, you really can't be that stubbornly obsessed." I turned around and smiled gently. "I'm planning to settle back in the country in the future. Would Auntie agree to let you return?" He froze for a long while before finally reacting, an exaggerated smile spreading across his face. Then he suddenly hugged me tightly and buried his head against the side of my neck. After a long time, I felt a burning wetness there. Much later, Ryan said he had liked looking at me since middle school. He had originally planned to confess after the college entrance exam, but his parents suddenly divorced, and he had to go abroad with his mother, who was in a terrible mood. That one mischance became more than 10 years. During university, he had secretly returned to the country to see me several times, but because he knew I liked Joel, he never dared to come out and meet me. When he learned that I was going to get married as soon as I graduated, he was lost and dejected for a very long time. However, Heaven still favored him. After all those twists and turns, I actually broke up with Joel and went to Germany to study. After we returned to the country, we registered our marriage, and the following year, we had a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. In this life, my family was happy and complete, and my children grew up healthy. As for Joel and Diana, they got married as they wished. I did not know whether it was karmic retribution, but in the year I returned to the country, Joel got into a car accident and lost both legs. While he was lying in the hospital bed, Diana abandoned the child and ran away with another man. I heard she went to Thailand or Cambodia, and after that, there was no more news of her. Chapter 26. When I was on my deathbed, I dreamed of my previous life. Ryan came to sweep my grave, holding a bouquet of small daisies, and made a wish. I hope I'll be happy in my next life. Later, after he retired, he often came again. There were always fresh flowers in front of my gravestone. Only then did I remember that in my previous life, when I had lost my legs and was in the hospital, Ryan had actually often come too. He did not speak much. He always silently helped my parents where he could, then left quietly without a sound. Now that I remembered it, Ryan's gaze had always been overflowing with sadness. For several months in a row, the old man did not come. I guessed that he must have died too. That day, in the thunderstorm, his face was pale, and his whole body carried the aura of death. In his arms, he held a bouquet of fresh roses. He slowly sat down, leaned against my gravestone, closed his eyes, and breathed deeply. For a very, very long time, his body did not move at all. A tiny point of light drifted out from his heart and slowly merged into my gravestone. Amid a vast burst of brightness, light and shadows swept past like a movie. An entire lifetime appeared before my eyes. Faster and faster. I had been reborn with my memories. Reborn to the time before I registered my marriage with Joel. So this was how my second life had come to be. It had come from the hope born of love. Fortunately, in this life, I did not let Ryan down. Together in life, together in death.